So we were basically looking into the AB fermentation, that was the acetone butanol. Uh, the main target is to produce the acetone and the butanol, so which are one of the widely used solvents in the chemical industries. And however, during the production of the acetone and the butanol, there is a production of or the formation of the ethanol as a byproduct. So our aim is to improve the production of the acetone and butanol and reduce the formation of the ethanol as low as possible, because whatever the carbon source, maybe in form of glucose or in form of mixed sugars, that is present in case of the molasses, cornstarch, and so on. So those carbon, whatever the carbon is there, our target should be to convert those carbon atoms mostly into the acetone and butanol. And if the ethanol is being produced, then what is happening? The carbon that is present, that initial carbon source, that is converted into the byproducts, which is not desirable. So we have looked into the biosynthetic pathways, and we have understood. So we have seen that there are basically two pathways that are there, and there are several branch points, right, where we can have the production of the acids, as well as the production of, for example, the acetone, ethanol, and the butanol. So, and along with that, there is a production of the gases. So we have the production of hydrogen, we have the production of the carbon dioxide at this particular step, and so on. So if you see the yield and the productivity, so since there is production of, if you start with the initial glucose, we can see that means there are several paths where actually the this fermentation, especially the AB fermentation, can go. Either it can go production of the acetate or butyrate, or it can go to the production of ethanol, acetone, butanol, along with the release of carbon dioxide and the hydrogen gas. So you can see there are so many, the exit points for the product formation. So the AB fermentation has to be very carefully monitored, so that your targeted products like the acetone and the butanol can be obtained. So for that, you need to add the cofactors, you have to optimize your growth media component in such a way that these particular pathways, like we have seen that several branch points. So like the formation of the acetoacetyl CoA or the formation of the butyl CoA, this should be actually promoted for the production of your targeted products. And the other byproducts like the acetate or butyrate or the ethanol, for example, their production should be as reduced as possible. So we have looked into the basic pathways, and then we have also looked into the overall process flow diagram. Right, uh, we start with the initial seed culture preparation, and then we transfer the initial seed culture to the production media where we produce the acetone. And now since we discussed that there is a production of the mixture of acetone, butanol, and ethanol, so that needs to be separated out. So there has to be some downstream processing, to separate each of the things, because when they are produced in the fermentation, they are produced as form of mixtures. And along with that, there's the production of the gases like the hydrogen and the carbon dioxide, which is also the mixture of gases that are produced. So you need to have a unit operations which is called as a scrubber. So the scrubber is nothing but it's a column in which you are having some sort of adsorbent, and they separate out the gases depending upon the solubility. So one of the adsorbent may have a the good solubility with carbon dioxide. For example, it may carbon dioxide gas in form of carbonate ions. And then what will happen, the whatever the hydrogen is there, will be removed, and then the trapped carbon dioxide within this the absorbents will be separated out by by separate processes. So here we can separate the hydrogen and the carbon dioxide and whatever the gases. So if you look at the industrial scale processes, especially for the AB fermentations, um, they start with the initial agricultural waste such as the potato mash, corn mash, okay, and they produce several the value added chemicals like the butanol, acetone, but along with that whatever the gases that are being produced, especially the hydrogen, so they are actually used for different applications, for hydrogen, for the hydrogenation reaction, especially you know about the vegetable oil hydrogenation and so on. So it is used for the hydrogenation reaction, and the carbon dioxide that is there is used for as a dry ice. So there are many different applications of so because what we want to do when we are doing an industrial scale process, if these byproducts are not utilized into development of any value added products, then if you make the overall cost, if you see the overall cost of this whole process at an industrial scale, then it will not be a feasible thing. So during generally in the industries, whatever the waste are being produced, okay, they are generally being used of some other layer of applications, so that the overall, if you carry out a cost estimation, then it should be in a profitable stage. So we have looked into the details of the different types of hydrolysates. So we have seen that in the case of this AB fermentation, you can use both the hexose sugars, like that is the carbon, that is the sugars which is having 6 carbon, as well as the sugars which are having the 5 carbons, like the fructose. So because of that versatility, we can directly use the hydrolysates of the agricultural source, starts from the corn or the sawdust. So what happens when we hydrolyzed these things? They consist of the mixture of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. So when you hydrolyze the cellulose, we obtain the glucose. So we've already discussed these things in our, in the before our mid-sem, that if you hydrolyze the cellulose, we will get the glucose units, and if you hydrolyze the hemicellulose, we will get a xylose. Xylose is a 5 carbon ring. So if we use this type of the agricultural waste, so we don't need to separate the 6 carbon atom or the hexose and the xylose type of sugars, and directly that can be used as a fermentation for the AB fermentation, because both these sugars can be taken up as a carbon source by this by the microorganism, especially the Clostridium species. Next, let us now. So we have also looked into the different stages of the growth. So, like if you see in the case of Clostridium, they are generally forms the spores, and the spores can germinate to form the vegetative cells, and so this is a cell cycle of any Clostridium species. So it starts to grow in form of vegetative cell, during which actually they undergo the cell division and growth to increase its biomass concentration, and during this stage only, for example, the organic acids and the butyric acids are being produced. Okay, so and once it reaches, for example, in under I mean, starts to form the spores, then it starts to actually produce the solvents, especially the acetone, butanol, and ethanol. So for example, if you would like to improve the production of your solvent, in this case, so we would make sure that it is at the initial stage of the sporulation. So during the sporulation, once it has formed the spores, it actually doesn't, it remains in its metabolically active state, but it's during the during the stage at which it has formed the spores, it is not able to undergo the cell division. Cell division will only undergo when it is in the state of the vegetative cell. So during the spore formation, it actually creates a very hard hard layer outside its surface, and so that it is resistance to any sort of environmental changes that are there. So, however, the production of the solvents will only take place when it is at initial stage of the spore formation. Okay. Next, we have also looked at what are the different stages. So generally, we have already discussed, like the first stage is to prepare the inoculum, and then which is basically the seed fermenter, and then we have to transfer the inoculum to the final production fermenter, where we have the production media in which your the solvents will be produced. So we have seen that what are the stages of each inoculum transfer, so that there should not be any contamination of the gases or contamination of any microorganisms, for example, there. And one of the thing that need to be that which is very important is that the fermentation has to be carried out in anaerobic conditions. So that means there should not be any oxygen present during the fermentation. And so for that you have to make sure that the aseptic conditions are maintained while we are having the transfer of the electrons. So that for those we carry out several things, like we use freshly sterilized and the sterilized cool medium, so that the very means that a particular medium have very less soluble oxygen dissolve in that. Then we actually also carry out means whenever we are having the fermentation process, suppose, because the fermentations are nothing but the closed reactor, and if you, for example, fill the fermenter with your initial growth media, so generally the space that is left above this inside a fermenter left above this growth media liquid is actually called as a the headspace. And this particular headspace is filled with the inert gas, with sterile inert gas, so that that aseptic condition or the anaerobic conditions is actually maintained. Okay, with a slight positive pressure. So if the pressure is inside is high, so there is a very less chance of the anything contaminate air or other components to be coming inside these reactors, and contaminate the whole thing. So to make sure that doesn't happen, so it's filled with an with a sterile inert gas at high pressure. Okay, so this also makes sure that we have very limited solubility of the oxygen within this the fermentation media. So that is how anaerobic conditions are maintained. And when we are looking at the means the several stages of when we are carrying out the seed fermentation process, and we are looking into the several steps. So there are several things that we look into. One is what is the change in the pH, and we'll see that what happens at each step of the pH change. Then we look into the density of the inoculum. Why is it so? Because as I have discussed that the Clostridium starts, it as it grows, it changes its state from the vegetative cells to the spores, and once it is the spores, it is so what is happening uh, when the cells and the spores they are in like a spherical shape, right? You can see from the diagram. So and when it is in the vegetative state condition, it is elongated. So there is a drastic change in the density of the biomass or the viscosity of the overall growth media. So that's to understand that the effect of the sporulation, all those things. We need to check the density in a real time. Okay, and then we measure the rate of gas evolution. So that also tells us into that what state of the state of growth is at the cells. Then we look into the presence of the facultative anaerobic by testing the aerobic plating on the agar medium. So to make sure that aseptic anaerobic condition is maintained. So that actually is very much important for the production of these solvents using this Clostridium. And then we carry out very small microscopy observations to check that that there should not be any contamination. And generally, if you see the inoculum fermentation process, they are carried out initially for 24 to 46 hours before they are added to the production tank, where actually the actual production of the acetone butanols is carried out. So we have seen into like once we have initially prepared the media, like as I've told you, generally we go for the mixed from mixed sugars from the agriculture sources, and generally molasses and here the corn medium. So molasses and the corn are generally used, and so molasses, as we have already seen earlier, that they have a mixture of sugars, and they have means there are general mixture of sugars, and the concentration of different sugars. It might be sucrose, fructose, hexose, glucose. Along with that, there are some nitrogen source that is present at a different concentration. So we have seen already that what are the means. So generally, like the sucrose is generally maintained at 6%, concentration, and the nitrogen source is actually added from outside in the presence of the salt, that is ammonium sulfate, because sometimes some of the media do not contain the adequate nitrogen source. So to overcome that limitations, we need to add some the salts, especially the ammonium salts from the outside, which can meet the nitrogen source required for the growth of those microorganisms. Along with that, there are some additives that are being added, like we have the calcium carbonate, super phosphate, and sometimes corn strip liquor. So corn strip liquor I already discussed that it is a very rich source of the nitrogen that are there, and the calcium carbonate, as we have discussed, that there is a presence, there is a formation of the acids, like we have the acetic acid or the butyric acid and so on. So to make sure that the pH doesn't decrease during the fermentation to very low pH, that it actually inhibits. So what is happening if the acetic acids are produced, the pH will go down, and the which will go down, and it will become more acidic, and that is actually going to affect the growth rate of the of the, for example, Clostridium that is there, right? So we know in acidic conditions the growth rate will be reduced. So to counteract that, the calcium carbonate is being added, which actually whenever that there is a high acidic content, then it actually neutralizes it. Okay, so this is how that design of the initial medium components are there, and similarly goes with the corn medium. So corn mediums also has a different the concentrations of the carbon and the nitrogen, so then accordingly they are they adjusted so that the high production of the acetone and high production of the solvents actually can take place. And generally, for example, the corn meal actually it contains of the starch, and when you heat the starch at, for example, 121 degrees Celsius, it starts to form a gel, and that gel-like structure is ideally not not suitable for fermentation. So generally we carry out the submerged fermentation, in which the inoculum is added into a liquid culture, and whatever the product is being produced, it may be extracellular or intercellular, that are actually and these products are extracted to different downstream processing. But so to avoid that generation, this type of the corn meals and corn medium, and they are generally heated for 20 minutes at 65 degrees Celsius. And also when we means, so there are different thing, two ways. Generally, if you would like to keep the starch for your fermentation, and sometimes since it's generalized, ideally those starches are form solid particles, and that actually interferes in your fermentation. So generally it is heated, means your corn medium is heated at 65 degrees for 20 minutes to gelize the starch, okay, and then it is removed through a simple very like a filtration, and then on that media, which consists of the carbon source, other glucose derivatives and so on, that are used for the fermentations. And then so once you remove the starch, we carry out sterilization of the media at the normal conditions of 121 degrees Celsius and the 15 psi. So this has been the overall understanding on the media. Next, what we are going to look into is the growth curve. Growth curve, which shows the so this particular, so what does the basically growth curve shows is, here it is showing the growth, that is OD 600 nanometer, and that means this actually is telling you what is that is a change in the biomass concentration. That is like especially the Clostridium species. So Clostridium species is widely used for the acetone butanol production. So how that the growth of the microorganism is changing with the time. This is what is shown by this particular graph. Okay, and here the OD has been taken at the aerobic and the anaerobic conditions, and in presence, or in the glucose presence of the glucose, and under the anaerobic and the aerobic conditions. So what will happen as the glucose will be consumed, right? So the glucose will be consumed, then what is happening, the biomass is concentration is going to increase, and as the biomass concentration is going to increase, that cells will be starts producing the different solvents. Either it will produce the acids, or it will produce the acetone, butanol, and ethanol. So let us look into, first of all, like understand what is happening at each and the every step of this growth curve. So here to make the to make it little bit complex, the first graph tells you what is the solvent production. Solvent production means the acetone. Whenever we talk of the solvent, we talk about these first three things, which is the acetone, butanol, ethanol. Okay, and AB, which tells you what is the combined of all the three components together. And whenever we talk about the acid, as you can see at the y-axis, there is another thing is acids. So this tells you about tells you about the acetic acid and the butyric acid that is being produced. So let us now look into the graphs of the production of these biochemicals, and the graph of what is the effect, or what is how the glucose is being consumed, and what is the for formation or the growth of this microorganism. So this one is very much important to understand, so that you should know. And we have seen for every other biochemicals that the growth characteristics is actually different, okay, for different biochemical production. And this will help you understand that how you should monitor or carry out your fermentation process. If for example you are going to suppose scale it up, so we need to understand like at how do we control each and every parameters of the process. So generally, if we look into the the fermentation process or the AV fermentation, generally it is classified into the three phases. And the first phase actually it's until the first phase is until the around at 20 around almost to 17 hours, or almost in this at this point of 20 hours. And what is as we observe from like as we observe from the growth curve, we can see that there is a increase, a very drastic increase, the increase in the production of the biomass. Okay, and generally what happens, there is a increase in the production of the biomass until that point, and also the significant rate at which the glucose is being utilized. Okay, and along with that, if we see this particular graph, so if you see this the hollow circle and the hollow square, it represents the acetic acid and the butyric acid. So as the the glucose is being rapidly consumed, and as the biomass is being rapidly produced at a at a very accelerating rate, what is happening, there is a significant we can see there is a very high production of production or high concentration of the acid, the acids that are there, right? So this is what actually happens in the first phase. So in the first phase, if you look, so there is a rapid growth of the bacteria with the formation of the acetic acid and butyric acid in the large amount. And along with that, during this stage also, there is a production of large quantity of gases, which is the carbon dioxide and the hydrogen gas. And during this stage, uh, sorry, during this stage, initially, if you see the so there is a change in the pH, obviously, and then actually it remains constant after a certain amount of time, because here you can see there is a maximum concentration of the acids that is being produced. Okay, and after that the concentration is going to decrease. So these acids that are produced is present in the fermentation media for short period of time, and then those acids are actually being utilized to for the production of the acetone, ethanol, and the acetone, butanol, and the ethanol. So if you look into this, so this is the main characteristics of the first phase, where we can see a rapid increase in the biomass production. Okay, and along with that, there is a rapid increase in the acetic acid production. And whatever the the acids that are being produced, they are used again for they are used in the subsequent step for the production of the targeted biochemical. So this first phase actually lasts for almost initially 13 to 17 hours of the initial stage of the fermentation as it is started. Okay, and also during this step, so there is a production of some sort of so whatever the microorganisms that are growing, it tries to first of all adopt itself to the high concentration of of the acids that is being produced during until the 17 hours, right? And as it gets as it adapts itself to this high concentration of the acid, it actually releases some adaptive enzymes. Okay, and those enzymes are all responsible for the conversion of these acids into the butanol, into this the acetone, butanol, ethanol, alcoholic derivatives. Okay, so this first stage actually is the the first phase, and it lasts for example for initial 17 hours of the fermentation time. Next, if you look into the second phase, what is happening, we will find after this, like in this stage we have the initial very high concentration of the acids, but in the second stage as we go, we will find that the concentration of the acids actually significance drastically. Okay, and what is happening to the acids? So the acids are being converted, to the acetone and the butanol, and this point at which there is a sharp decrease in the in the concentration of the acid. This point is actually called as the acid break, and this is a very important point at for this AB fermentation, because here what is happening, there is a switch in the fermentation from the production of the acids to the production of the acetone and the butanol. Okay, however, means this time period, so this time period from initially 0 to 20 hours is actually very much critical and crucial, especially for the AB fermentation process, especially during the industrial processing. So it is very closely monitored at what stage we obtain the acid breakpoint. Okay, and generally this acid break will it will increase or decrease. It will increase basically when there is a presence of some sort of a contamination in that in the fermentation media, and contamination not only some microorganisms, but the how we maintain the anaerobic conditions. So that is very much important, because as I already told, this fermentation will take place only in the absence of the oxygen. So the acid break is a very critical point in the ABE fermentation. And the rate of gas production, actually, if you look into how much the CO2 and the hydrogen is produced, and which stage it is being produced, then it is actually it reaches maximum only after this the breakpoint is only once. With first, what will happen if we start the fermentation, we will get the breakpoint, and then after that only we will find that there is the higher conversion, a higher rate of production of this CO2 and hydrogen gas, and that is there. And after that, once it moves, so as the acids and acids concentration decreases, we can see at this point we can see there is sharp increase in the production of the solvents. So this first top graph actually shows you the combined values for the acetone, butanol, and ethanol, and this dark this filled diamonds and the filled square, and here being the the filled circles, it tells you about the production of the acetone, butanol, and the ethanol. So this production of your desired product only takes place in the second phase, when it crosses the acid break, and then it starts to produce your targeted product. Now the third phase is means third phase is the final phase, in which the rate of production of whatever the gases are there, it decreases substantially, as well as we can see that the rate of the rate of the utilization of these acids for the production of the solvents have decreased, and it actually reaches a steady state. Okay, and there is no significant change in the concentration of the solvents that is being produced. Okay, and generally since the acids components is the acid components is being utilized for the production of the alcohol derivatives, so what is happening, there is a change in the pH, and generally the pH actually increases from, for example, 4.2 to 4.4 or 5.2 to 6.2, depending upon which type of media we have. Okay, because some media, we have other media components like the ammonium nitrate and other ammonium derivatives or nitrogen sources, so which actually are means which actually play a very major role in changing the pH. So therefore, the change in the pH because of the conversion of these acids into the solvents actually will depend upon the type of initial carbon source that we are having. And means and during this stage 3, where we can see that all the the concentration of all the solvents, or like the acetone, butanol, and the ethanol, and all the acids, they are when they reach the steady state. Okay, so here you can see that after a particular time interval, there is no significant the change in the productivity or production of your desired product, right? So this is the basic 3 stages of so if you are asked, for example, to explain, for example, the growth characteristics of the Clostridium species for the production of the acetone, butane, ethanol, so you should be explaining this first, second, and third phase, and should be highlighting it in a growth curve. Okay, so the growth curve, whenever we are talking of the growth curve should carry the information regarding the concentration, along with the fermentation time. For example, so this time which represents the fermentation time. So with the fermentation time, how the concentration of the products, the utilization of the substrates like the glucose, and or for example there are some production of byproducts. So how it is being produced, that information contain, and what is the effect in the change in the biomass growth, how the the microorganisms is growing, and how is biomass growth is changing, and during these changes, how it's the productivity of that particular biochemical, how it is going to it is either increasing or decreasing, and so on. So this information you have to explain. Okay, so these are the 3 phases, and generally, as I have already discussed at the start of the class, like since the one of the glucose is converted to so many the branches of the product. So generally, the yield of the particularly one of the compound, be it acetone, butanol, or the ethanol. So that actually is significantly low. So if we see in the case of the corn medium, and generally if you see the fermentation media after separation of the biomass, it consists of the butanol, acetone, and the ethanol, and they are in the ratio of the 6:3:1. So for example, if you start with 10 gram of the glucose, you will be finally getting a 6 gram of the butanol, 3 grams of acetone, and the 1 gram of the ethanol. And if you are starting with the molasses as a medium, the ratios that are produced is 6:5:3. So this is how the breaking of the concentration of the butanol, acetone, and ethanol takes place, and depends upon the media, okay, that is being used. So one thing, as I already told you, that along with the production of this, the byproducts like the gases are there. So generally 3 parts of the carbon dioxide and 2 parts of the hydrogen by volume are actually produced as a byproduct, and sorry, and along with that, some of the several byproducts, other like, so these are the gaseous product. However, other the liquid based product or the aqueous product or the solvent that are produced are like isopropanol, formic acid, acetic acid, butyric acid, acetyl methyl carbonate, and the yellow oil. So yellow oil is nothing but this mixture of higher alcohols and the acids, and they have their industrial relevance. So generally, whatever the bioproducts are being produced, and each of the bioproducts have the industrial relevance. So generally, in the AB fermentation, those bioproducts are sorry, which bioproducts are being produced, and they are separated out and use it for the high performance application. Now let us look into the final step of the product recovery. So we have looked into the how the media components, what are the different phases of the growth of the microorganisms with the AB fermentation. Next, let us look into how we can recover the products. So as we know that this acetone butanol uh, acetone butanol generally are the volatile components. So if you see the boiling point of the acetone, it is somewhat around 55 to 60 degrees Celsius, and depending upon obviously its purity. And then if you look on the butanol, so it is also similar type of alcohol, but it is generally having higher boiling point, maybe around 80. Ethanol is having around 65 to 70 degrees Celsius. So if we can simply heat the fermentation media, then we know that if we start heating it from room temperature to up to 50 degrees and you keep it there, then whatever the acetone is there, it will be vaporized out, and we can separate it in a distillation column. So generally, this separation of these volatile components are generally being carried out, in the distillation columns based utilizing the mechanism of the volatility that this each compound have. So generally, they are passed through the distillation columns, or if you see if you see the traditional processes, they are passed through equipment which is called as a beer still. Okay, and what is a beer steel? It is a tall vertical, and continuous steel. Steel is some type of a tower. Okay, and it consists of the perforated plates, which is heated at different temperature. Okay, so depending upon the temperature range at which it is heated, the several the different compounds can be separated, because as I told you, there are presence of other alcohols or the other acidic derivatives, but even the formic acid, acetic acid, butyric acid, they are also a little bit, the volatile in nature. And so that actually makes sure that we can, separate them depending upon, the number of perforated plates or perforated units we have. So let us look into the diagram of, the beer steel. So generally they consist of, this type of long vertical towers, and here you can see each of these circular windows. So these circular windows are nothing but it consists of the perforated plates, where you are heating it at different temperature, and depending upon the compound that is there in the mixture, so they are separated depending upon the temperature range at which they are heated. Okay, so like this, like there are 30 perforated plates that are there as it's told. So at each of this point in this in this tower, generally they have these perforated plates that are being heated at different temperature. And generally what is how it is done, the fermentation broth is allowed to enter the steel is this particular unit. Okay, so this is this particular vertical tower that is there is actually called as the steel. Okay, so what is happening in this, through these pipes connections, we at the top of this particular tower, we introduce your fermentation media, and fermentation media means the fermentation broth. So this fermentation broth, so one of the step that is being done before this is the removal of the biomass. So whatever the biomass is there, it is removed by simple the filtration, and the left behind the fermentation broth is actually introduced from the top of this steel, and as it goes down, it comes into contact with the perforated plates, and sorry, and then these perforated plates have either it is being heated by the heating units, or they have at their periphery or their circumference at the outside a continuous flow of steam. So these plates are either heated by using the steam that is being passed at each and every unit. So there are units from where you can introduce the heat to introduce the steam to heat up the units at different temperature. So and that moves from the bottom to the top. So here what is happening, there is a two counterflow movement. First, one movement from the top to bottom is the movement of the fermentation broth, and the second movement is the movement of the steam along these perforated plates, which is also heating up the plate. So there is a dual applications. Okay, so why this counter current movement is there? Because it helps into the improved mixing of the steam at which is maintained at different temperatures with the fermentation broth. Okay, so what is happening, the volatile component like the acetone and the butanol, it actually vaporizes due to this effect of the steam. So as these volatile components if the steam is at, for example, at 55 degrees Celsius, then what will happen, the acetone will get volatilized. Okay, if it comes at a temperature, the steam which is around 80 to 85 degrees Celsius, then the butanol will vaporize. Okay, so so once this this acetone is first of all will be first vaporized, okay, in form of a vapor, and it will be removed from this steel, from the top of the steel, and then it will be condensed, okay, along with the steam. So generally it will be a mixture of the steam as well as the acetone vapors and the butanol vapors. And we know that if so steam will condense at 100 at the condition point for the steam and this acetone and the butanol solvents are different. Okay, so by changing by utilizing this particular property of different condensation point, we can easily separate the steams and the steam in form of a water, and the solvents, especially the solvent acetone or the butanol, in form of the organic aqueous organic solvents. Okay, so this process of using this type of perforated plates, this is overall it is it's a similar concept of the fractional distillations. Okay, and generally the acetone and butanol collected as a separate fractions, especially also however, the ethanol and the isopropanol. So, if isopropanol is present as a byproduct, it is collected as a single fractions. Okay, because the change it is because of the difference in the boiling point of the ethanol and the isopropanol are not significant, are not significant enough. So, because of that, generally ethanol and isopropanol are collected as single fraction, and acetone and butanol, as I told you, it has a difference of almost 30 degrees, so which is high enough, and that's why it is separated as a sorry, as a separate fractions. Along with that, there are other some of the byproducts. So during this AB fermentation, some of the byproducts contains some value added product. Okay, so it contains some riboflavin and the other vitamins. Okay, and they are generally present in the biomass. Okay, so what is happening, so whatever there is a biomass that is present, and it contains this type of vitamins, so this residue is concentrated and dried. Okay, and then actually it is being used as a feed supplement, especially for in the animal husbandry. Okay, because of the rich content of the the vitamins, so that is used as a feed supplement, especially for cattle and so on. So you can see how the different products that are being, or the byproducts that are being generated in the overall process, that is being used for some of the applications. So here you can see, so this is the overall the how the AB acetone butanol ethanol fermentation process is taking place. Okay, what are the different how the fermentations are done, what are the different stages we have looked into, and after you have produced your desired product. And as I told you, one of the main challenges in this AB fermentation is the productivity. Here we can see that whatever the carbon, initial carbon, be it a glucose or any other carbon source, hexose or fructose that have been taken. So here we can see that there is always a presence of the mixture of the three components at some particular ratios. Along with that, there is a production of carbon dioxide and hydrogen by volume, and also there is a loss of the carbon from the byproduct. So overall, if you see that how much of the carbon, that is the initial carbon source that you're using, that is being utilized for the production of the acetone and the butanol, that is significantly very less. Okay, so overall, we generally get very less, the production of the yield of the acetone and butanol, and this is the final step of product recovery, and this is based on the volatility of the two liquids, especially the alcohol and the acetone and the butanol. They are volatile components. Along with that, acetic acids and other also are also very volatile in nature. So these are separated based on the difference in the boiling point of these individual components. So this is the overall way, overall the fermentation for this acetone, butanol, ethanol production. And And next, so this is a very interesting fermentation process. And next, after this, we will be, shifting to a new fermentation process, which will be, the glycerol production. So, glycerol production actually is also one of the, widely used industrial scale production process. So, let us in today's class briefly look into how that glycerol production started, and how it shifted from the initially it started with a fermentation based process, because glycerol was because the method for the chemical synthesis was not there, and then it slowly shifted to the chemical synthesis using the petroleum feedstock. And then, however, if you see nowadays, the production, if you see most of the production process for the glycerol now, because of the increase in the petrochemical prices, now there is again a shift in the production of the glycerol using the fermentation routes. And also there is a significant improvement in the strain improvement of the microbial strain improvement, the media improvement, the fermentation technique improvement of those techniques has now shifted the production of the glycerol to via biochemical routes. So if you look into the historical perspective, the glycerol microglycerol production was almost discovered 150 years back, and whatever the glycerol was produced was used in the for the commercial application, especially during the World War One, especially during for the explosive developments. But so it was used basically for the explosive manufacture. But after the World War One, generally the demand for those glycerol actually decreased, and then the glycerol whatever was being produced was used in other industries. So which are the other industries which were using the glycerol? Especially there were some sort of or especially the soap industry. So they were they were utilizing the glycerols for the production of the soaps, and some of the cosmetic, paint, food, pharmaceutical, pulp and paper, leather industries, where they were actually utilizing the glycerol. So here you can see that after World War One, the demand for the glycerol decreased, and then it started once the glycerol utilization of glycerol in the soap or in the food additives have started. Again, the demand for the glycerol actually initiated, and that actually led, and after the world during the World War II, most of the glycerol was chemically synthesized, and we know the biodiesel production. So if you see the biodiesel production, or especially whenever we carry out different hydrogenation of the oils or the esterification of the oils, of any type of oil, be it a vegetable oil or any other oil. So generally, the glycerol is produced as a byproduct. So there is a lot of glycerol that is being produced, and those glycerols are used, for the used in the soap industries, for example, production of those type of products and so on. But overall, if you see the chemical processes, generally propylene was used. Okay, for the production of the glycerol. But however, because the propylene is one of the field additives, especially that we use. So the demand for the propylene means the cost of the propylene increased, and their utilization in the glycerol actually as a means the overall, if you are using a propylene for the production of the glycerol, the overall cost of the production of the glycerol was very high. Okay, and during that similar time, actually, significant improvement in the microbial fermentation route was developed. So, what were those developments? So, it was found that the overproduction of the glycerol by the yeast using the monosaccharides. So, monosaccharides are nothing but the sugars. It can be obtained by forming, the complex between the acetaldehyde and the bisulfite ions, thereby reducing the ethanol production and restoring the redox balance through glucose synthesis. So we will look into this, the overall. So this part you will understand once we look into the pathway. Like so, generally, as we have seen in our last the acetone butanol fermentation. So this the production of the glycerol actually is a step forward from the acetone from this the alcohol fermentation, that is the ethanol fermentation. So we need to retard the production of this ethanol by using some sort of ions like the bisulfide ions, and by creating some redox balance, which actually promotes the synthesis of the glycerol. So we look into that how we can tune the biosynthesis pathway in such a way in which we improve the production of the glycerol. Also, there were, we optimized, the methods and the techniques of the fermentation process. And generally, like if you're growing the yeast at pH 7 or above, we obtain a higher yield of the glycerol. And we also are able to develop some osmotolerant yeast by some genetic engineering approaches. So means we were able to genetically modify yeast in such a way that it starts to produce, so that means we engineered the yeast in such a way that it starts to follow a metabolic pathway in which the carbon source is converted into the glycerol rather than the ethanol. So so there is means if you see the glycerol biosynthesis pathway, it is nothing but a bypass of the biochemical pathway of the production of the ethanol. So that we will look in our the upcoming from your upcoming lectures after your mid-sem break. So so we look into the different techniques, like we have the sulfide process, alkali process, osmotolerant yeast process, and what are the differences are there for each production, and then we look into the biosynthesis pathway and so on. So anyone has any questions or doubts until now? Hello, hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So okay, so we will keep our discussion, keep our class today until this. We will start with the glycerol from the in the next class. I think after your mid-semester break. Okay. So anyway, thank you everyone. Okay. Let us meet after your mid-semester break. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.